Mr. Diddy.
Only in Simbaland can we wake up to the drum. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna say only in Simbaland, but y'all know what I mean. You know, it's great. It's been a great process. The signal keeps dropping, so y'all have to excuse me. So I'm going to get through the speech by Prince Hall, because you often hear his name if you are involved in the community, but we rarely hear his speeches. We hear Marcus Garvey's name, but we rarely hear or read the speeches or even assign these individual speeches. And the speech is, in a lot of cases, the culmination of everybody's thoughts. It's a culmination of their thoughts. So what we're going to do is we're going to get busy and we're going to start. All right, so here we go. But better yet, while I got some airtime, let me go and let you know that you are now listening to Gye-Nyame Journey Radio. This is a Heart of a Simba production. Where we strive to blow up your old paradigms. All right, so here we go. Dearly and loved brethren, as through the goodness and mercy of God, we are once more met together in order to celebrate the festival of St. John the Baptist. It is requisite that we should, on these public days, and when we appear in form, give some reason as a foundation for our so doing. But as this has been already done in a discourse delivered in substance by our late Reverend Brother John Merant, and now in print, I shall at this time endeavor to raise part of the superstructure for howsoever good the foundation may be, yet without this it will only prove a babble. I shall therefore endeavor to shew the duty of a nation. And the first thing is that he believes in one supreme being that is the great architect of this visible world, and that he governs all things here below by his almighty power, and his watchful eye is over all works. Again, we must be good subjects to the laws of the land in which we dwell, giving honor to our lawful governors and magistrates, giving honor to whom honor is due, and that we have no hand in any plots or conspiracies or rebellion, or side or assist in them. For when we consider the bloodshed, the devastation of towns and cities that have been done by them, what heart can be so hard as not to pity those our distressed brethren, and keep at the greatest distance from them, however just it may be on the side of the oppressed? Yet it doth not in the least, or rather ought not, abate that love and fellow feeling which we ought to have for our brother fellow men. The next thing is love and benevolence to all, the whole family of mankind, as God's make and creation. Therefore, we ought to love them all, for love or hatred is of the whole kind. For if I love a man for the sake of the image of God which is on him, I must love all, for he made all and upholds all, and we are dependent upon him for all we do enjoy and expect to enjoy in this world and that which is to come. Therefore, he will help and assist all his fellow men in distress, let them be of what color or nation they may. Yea, that was rising between Lot's servants and his. Color, nation they may. Yea, that even are very enemies, much more a brother Mason. I should therefore give you a few instances of this from Holy Writ. And first, how did Abraham prevent the storm or rebellion that was rising between Lot's servants and his? Saith Abraham to Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, for the land is before us. If you will go to the left, then I will go to the right. And if you will go to the right, then I will go to the left. They divided, and peace was restored. I will mention the compassion of a black man to a prophet of the Lord. Ebed-Melech, when he heard that Jeremiah was cast into the dungeon, he made intercession for him to the king, and got liberty to take him out from the jaws of death. See Jeremiah. Also the prophet Elijah, it says see Jeremiah 38, verses 7 to 13. Also the prophet Elijah, after he had led the army of the Aramites blindfolded into Samaria, when the king in a deriding manner said, my father, not considering that he was as much their father as his, shall I smite, or rather kill them out of the way, as not worthy to live on the same earth, or draw the same air with himself? So eager was he to shed his brethren's blood, that he repeats his bloodthirsty demand. But the prophet, offering after reproaching him, therefore answered him, no, but set bread and water before him. In other words, give them a feast and let them go home in peace. See Kings 6, 22nd chapter to 23rd. I shall just mention the good deeds of the Samaritan. Time they were looked upon as unworthy to eat, drink, or trade with their fellow men, at least by the Jews. See the pity and compassion he had on a poor, distressed, and half-dead stranger. See Luke 10, from 30 to 37. See that you endeavor to do likewise. But when we consider the amazing condescending love and pity our blessed Lord had on such poor worms as we are, as not only to call us his friends, but his brothers, we are lost and can go no further in Holy Writ for examples, to excite us to the love of our own fellow men. but I am aware of an objection that may arise. For some men will catch at anything, that is, that they were not all Masons. We allow it. And I say they were not all Christians, and their benevolence to strangers ought to shame us both, that there is so very little of it to be seen in these enlightened days. Another thing, which is the duty of a Mason, is that he pays a strict regard to the stated meetings of the lodge. For Masonry is of a progressive nature and must be attended to if ever he intends to be a good Mason. For the man that thinks that because he hath been made a Mason and is called so, and at the same time will willfully neglect to attend his lodge, he may be assured he will never make a good Mason, nor ought he be looked upon as a good member of the craft. For if his example was followed, where would be the lodge? And besides, what a disgrace is it when we are at our set meetings to hear that one of our members is at a drinking house or a card table or in some worse company. This brings disgrace on the craft. Again, there are some that attend the lodge in such a manner that sometimes their absence will be better than their company. I would not here be understood a brother in disguise, for such as one hath no business on a level floor. For if he hath been displeased abroad or at home, the less thing that is spoken that he thinks not right, or in the least offends him, he will raise his temper to such a height as to destroy the harmony of the whole lodge. But we have a remedy, and every officer ought to see it put in execution. Another thing a Mason ought to observe is that he should lend his helping hand to a brother in distress and relieve him. This we may do by various ways, for we may sometimes help him to a cup of cold water, and it may be better to him than a cup of wine. Good advice may be sometimes better than feeding his body. Helping him to some lawful employment, better than giving him money. So defending his case and standing by him when wrongly accused may be better than clothing him. Better to save a brother's house when on fire than to give him one. This much may suffice. I shall now cite some of our forefathers for our imitations. At first shall be Tertullian, who defended the Christians against their heathen false accusations, whom they charged with treason against the empire and the emperor. To pray and pray for all mankind. When they were charged with worshiping the sun because they looked towards the east when they prayed, he defended them against this slander also, and proved that they were slandered, slightest all, and ill-treated, not for any Take another of the same city, Cyprian, for his fidelity to his profession was such that he would rather suffer death than betray his trust and the truth of the gospel, or approve of the impious worship of the Gentiles. He was not only bishop of Carthage, but of Spain and the east, west, north, and northern churches, who died Anno Christi 259. But I have not time to cite but one more, out of the hundreds that I could count of our fathers, who were not only examples to us, but to many of their nobles and learned, that is, Augustine, who had engraven on his table these words: He that doth love as absent friend to jeer, may hence depart, no room for him here. His saying was that sincere and upright prayer pierceth heaven and returns not empty, that it was a shelter to the soul, a sacrifice to God and a scourge to the devil. There's nothing, said he, more abateth pride and sin than the frequent meditation on death. He cannot die ill that lives well, and seldom doth he die well that lives ill. Again, if men want wealth, it is not to be unjustly gotten. If they have it, they ought by good works to lay it up in heaven. And again, he hath tasted the sweetness of the divine love, will not care for temporal sweetness. The reasonable soul made in the likeness of God may here find much distraction, but no full satisfaction, not to be without affliction, but to care for temporal sweetness. The reasonable soul made in the likeness of God may here find much distraction, but no full satisfaction, not to be without affliction, but to overcome them in blessedness. Love is as strong as death. As death kills the body, so love of eternal life kills worldly desires and affections. He called ingratitude the devil's sponge, wherewith he wipes out all the favors of the Almighty. His prayer was, Lord, give first what thou requirest, and then require of me what thou wilt. This good man died Anno Christi 430. The next is Fulgentius. His speech was, why travel I in a world which can yield me no future, nor durable reward answerable to my pains? Thought is better to weep well than to rejoice ill. Yet if joy be our desire, how much more excellent is their joy, who have a good conscience before God, who dread nothing but sin, study to do nothing but to accomplish the precepts of Christ. Now therefore let me change my course, and as before, I endeavored amongst my noble friends to prove more noble. So now let me care and employment be among the humble and poor servants of Christ, and become more humble, that I may help and instruct my poor and distressed brethren. Thus, my brethren, I have quoted a few of your reverend fathers for your imitation, which I hope you will endeavor to follow, so far as your abilities will permit, in your present situation and the disadvantages you labor under on account of your being deprived of the means of education in your younger days. As you see it is at this day with our children. For we, notwithstanding, we are rated for that and other town charges. We are deprived of that blessing, but be not discouraged. Have patience and look forward to a better day. Hear what the great architect of the universe world saith. Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands unto me. Hear also the strange but bold and confident language of Jehu, who just before the executioner gave the last stroke said, I challenge you to meet me in 100 years hence. But in the meantime, let us lay by our recreations and superfluities, so that we may have that to educate our rising generations, which was spent in those follies. Make you this beginning, and who knows but God may raise up some friend of body or of friends, as he did in Philadelphia, to open a school for blacks here at that friendly city, as that friendly city has done. I shall now show you what progress Masonry hath made since the siege and taking of Jerusalem in the year 70 by Titus Vespasian. After a long and bloody siege, a million of souls have been slain or have perished in the city. It was taken by storm and the city set on fire. There was an order of men called the Order of St. John, who besides their other engagements subscribed to another, by which they bound themselves to keep up the war against the Turks. These men defended the temple when on fire, in order to save it, so long that Titus was amazed and went to see the reason of it. But when he came so near as to behold the Sanctum Sanctorum, he was amazed and shed tears and said, no wonder these men should so long to save it. He honored them with many honors, and large contributions were made to that order from many kingdoms. And word also said, No wonder, and was also knighted. They continued 88 years in Jerusalem, till that city was again retaken by the Turks, after which they resided 104 years in Syrian city of Ptolemy, till the remains of the holy conquest were lost, whereupon they settled on the islets of Cyprus, where they continued 18 years, till they found an opportunity to take the island Rhodes, being the holy conquest, or being masters of that. They maintained it for 213 years, and from thence they were called Knights of Rhodes, till in the year 1530 they took their residence in the island of Malta, where they have continued to this day, and are distinguished by the name Knights of Malta. The first master was Villerant in the year 1099. Foucault Villerant in the year 1322 took the islands of Rhodes, and was after that distinguished by the title of Grand Master, which has devolved to his successor to this day. Query whether at that day, when there was an African church, and perhaps the largest Christian church on earth, whether there was no African of that order, or whether, if there were all whites, they refused to accept them as their fellow Christians and brother Masons, or whether there were any so weak, or rather so foolish, as to say, because they were black, that would make their lodge or army too common or too cheap. Sure, this was not our conduct in the late war, for then they marched shoulder to shoulder, brother soldier to brother soldier, to the field of battle. Let who will answer. He that despises a black man for the sake of his color reproaches his maker, and hath resented it. In the case of Aaron and Miriam, see for Numbers 12. But to return, in the year 1787, the year in which we received our charter, there were 489 lodges under the charge of the late Royal Highness the Duke of Cumberland, whose memory will always be esteemed by every good Mason. And now, my African brother, you see what a noble order you are a member of. My charge to you is that you make it your study to live up to the precepts of it, as you know that they are all good. And let it be known this day to the spectators that you have not been to a feast of Bacchus, but to the refreshment with Masons, and see to it that you behave as such, as well at home as abroad, always to keep in your mind the obligation you are under, both to God and your fellow men, and more so you, my dear brethren of Providence, who are at a distance from and cannot attend the lodge here but seldom. Yet I hope you will endeavor to communicate to us by letter of your welfare, and remember your obligations to each other, and live in peace and love as brother. We thank you for your attendance with us this day, and wish you a safe return. If thus we, by the grace of God, live up to our profession, we may cheerfully go the rounds of the compass of this life, having lived according to the plumb line of uprightness, the square of justice, the level of truth and sincerity. And when we are come to the end of time, we may then bid farewell to the delightful sun and moon, and the other planets that move so beautifully round her in their orbits, and all things here below, and ascend to that new Jerusalem, where we shall not want these tapers, for God is the light thereof, where the wicked cease from troubling, and where the weary are at rest. Then shall we hear and see and know all we desire and wish below, and every power find sweet employ in the eternal world of joy. Our flesh shall slumber in the ground till the last trumpet joyful sound. Then burst the chains, the sweet surprise, in our Savior image rise. Prince Hall, a charge delivered to the Brethren of African Lodge on the 25th of June, 1792, in Boston. Wow. 1792. So, that was Prince Hall. I'm going to post this one up. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to hit me up at 614-556-4535. You can find this on a site called blackpast.org. They have a whole section with a whole bunch of speeches that I'm going to be running through. I don't know whether to make it a regular show, but I'm kind of liking it because one of the things I noticed about this is that one of the concerns that he had about his Masons was them making the regular meetings. So some of the stuff that organizers are dealing with today have been going on for a long time, and this is back in 1792. So brothers was still being late. Y'all was still late and still not making the meetings. He said, let's see. Another thing, I shall now cite some of our forefathers. Okay, boom, boom. Another thing which is the duty of a Mason is that he pays strict regard to the stated meetings of the lodge. For Masonry is a progressive nature and must be attended to if ever he intends to be a good Mason. That's the same thing with nation building, yo. I mean, really. 1792, we've been doing the same stuff since 1792. He talks about for if and the same time will willfully neglect to attend his lodge, he may be assured he will never make a good Mason, nor ought to be looked. He said something about them being sitting at the bar or playing cards when they're supposed to be somewhere doing what they're supposed to be doing as Masons. We still deal with the same thing today. You know what I'm saying? We want relationships with our responsibility and respect. We can't do that. You can't do that. You can't have you can't have relationship without the other two R's. You need the three R's in order to have a proper stool of relationship. You know what I'm saying? So that you can sit down on relationship. You know what I'm saying? You got to have those other two: relationship, respect, and responsibility. You got to have all those R's, right? And a lot of us don't want the R's. We just want the relationship. We don't want to get the respect. We don't want the responsibility. We don't want to get the respect. We don't want the responsibility. We just want the relationship, you know, and that needs to be something that goes against the code of our community. There need to start to be consequences for individuals that are like that. Now, it don't have to be nothing violent. You know, consequence could be just, you know, get away from us. You ain't part of this no more. You know what I'm saying? Go on about your business. We got to be strong about that type of stuff, you know. So this is Brother Tim, and I thank those that take the time to listen. Oh, here we go.
Mr. Daddy.